Hey everybody, welcome to HomeRecordingMadeEasy.com, VisionRecordingStudios.com, and here on my YouTube channel. And this is video number 9 of the AudioSchoolOnline.com mixing contest. If you don't know what this little documentary series is, go back to my YouTube channel and search the playlists and look for the mixing contest playlist. And I've had all 8 videos before from a contest that I signed up for, mixing contest last month, and I've been kind of documenting the mix along the way to give you some free training. So this is video number 9, and we're going to talk about parallel compression today and how I used it in this particular mix. So you can go off and do this yourself. Now, I will tell you that in this YouTube video, it's going to be a condensed version. If you want to learn about parallel compression, I have a YouTube video dedicated to this in my archive on my YouTube channel. But more importantly, if you go out to HomeRecordingMadeEasy.com and check out Mixing Made Easy Volume 2, I spend over an hour talking about parallel compression and how you use it and how it can be really effective to bring your mixes to the next level. And as part of that, we talk about the 3D sound field, which is a whole compression type of a technique using attack and release, which kind of goes hand in hand with parallel compression. So I urge you to go out to HomeRecordingMadeEasy.com, check out Mixing Made Easy Volume 2, and you'll learn everything you need to know about parallel compression, along with using compression in general and the 3D sound field to really make your mixes come to life. So having said that, let's look at down here at the very last 5 or 6 tracks that we have down here in purple. These are the parallel compression tracks, and we're going to mute them. I'm going to play back a section of this song, and the mix is not completely done. It's still being tweaked, but we're getting there. So what I'm going to do is going to play back this section of music, and somewhere in the middle I'm going to turn on the parallel compression track so you can hear what the parallel compression is doing to this particular mix. Now, word of caution, I would be listening to this either on a good set of studio monitors in your control room or your home studio, or on a good set of headphones to really get the most, to hear the most impact. If you're using a pair of earbuds or listening to this on an iPhone or an Android or an iPad on little earbuds or that little corny speaker that's in those mobile devices, not only will you not hear the effect of this, but you're going to miss the whole point. Okay, so go to a place where you can really listen to this, and it's best if you listen to this on a decent set of headphones. It's where I think it'll be the most effective for you from a learning perspective. Okay, so let's play this back without parallel compression, and then I will turn these tracks on all at once and you can hear what it does.
Day without fear in my heart would send you away. I could barely make a memory that I want to keep without you near me. Oh, I'll try, but then I'll deny. Oh, I'll try, but then I'll deny.
Okay, so hopefully you can hear the difference here. Now this is subtle, and it's supposed to be subtle. So let me give you kind of the 60-second rundown of how and my thought process behind using parallel compression this subtly. So throughout the rest of this mix, if you watch the first 8 videos, during the compression portion of compressing each one of these tracks throughout this mix, you'll notice that I've done what I called very controlled or light compression. Most of the compression was done on the Neve 88RS channel strip, and it was done around a 2-to-1 ratio, maybe 2 to 3 dB at most, just to kind of control the peaks, but not to really compress and do anything from a real heavy compression point of view, because I wanted to retain the dynamics of the song. One of the telltale signs of a new mixing engineer when I hear a mix is 2 things I listen for right away that can tell me whether they really understand what they're doing and where they kind of are in their mixing career. And it's not a bad thing what I'm about to say, it's just the fact. And it happened to me, and it'll happen to you, and it happens to all of us at one point when we're just starting out learning how to mix. The first thing I listen for is the reverb. Usually the reverb is way too heavy and it's really, really washy, and it sounds like the band's playing in a wind tunnel. Unless you're going for that kind of effect, reverb should be very subtle for the most part. In this particular track on the vocals, it's a little heavier than I would normally leave it, and if you go back and watch the vocal video, you'll know why. And then also compression. When most engineers and people that are learning how to use compression, they over compress. And the reason why they over compress is when they're first learning about compression, they have a difficult time hearing the compression. And the only way they really can hear it, because they don't know quite how to listen for it yet, is they over compress. And when you over compress on all the different individual tracks throughout the mix, and then on the mix buses and on the master buses, by the time you get down the parallel compression, you've already squashed the life out of the track, and the track sounds flat and it sounds dull because the dynamics are gone. So what I try to do is, before parallel compression, I'm doing a very light compression, just kind of controlling the peaks and using the attack and release on the different groupings of instruments to place it in the 3D sound field. And you say, well, what's a 3D sound field? Well, the 3D sound field, you think about left, right, and center. You're panning, right? We have left, we have hard right, we have center, and we have everything in between, the stereo field. But the 3D sound field also includes the front and the back of the mix. So if you're sitting in front of a band in a club and watching a band on stage, how are the instruments positioned? This is how I think about compression. So if I have a drum kit, where's the drum kit usually positioned? Well, it's usually positioned in the back of the mix or behind the band members, and it's in the center of the stage, right? Now, where's the lead vocal? Well, the lead vocal is usually way up front in the very front of the stage, dead center, right? So by using the 3D sound field and using compression, I can place those instruments so when the listener is listening back to the mix, even though they're only listening to it on two speakers, a left and a right, the mix has a perception or a feeling like the instruments are in different parts of the 3D sound field. And once again, go out to Home Recording Made Easy, go to the Made Easy products page and go to Mixing Made Easy Volume 2 and check out that product, because what I just said to you is 60 seconds of something I spend over an hour on that product. And if you really should understand the 3D sound field and how to use compression and how to control where those instruments sit in that 3D sound field, that is the difference between a professional mix and an amateur mix. Okay, so by using light compression throughout the mix and placing the instruments in the 3D sound field where I want, now I want to take parallel compression and I want to over compress on separate tracks like you see down here in purple, those groupings of instruments. And then I want to, which has a different tone and a different feeling altogether. When you over compress something, it tends to get very thick, it tends to get very powerful. And then I tuck those tracks in underneath the original tracks. Okay, so it's just subtly bringing up the thickness and the liveliness of the track, and you dial it into taste. That's why when I played back this piece of music, when I was muting the parallel tracks and turning them on and off, you can hear a little difference, but it's very subtle. Okay, it's not really louder, it's more lively, it's a little more thick, and it gives the mix another dimension. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. Again, go out to Mixing Made Easy and you'll see what I'm talking about. So let's start with the drums. Let's go ahead and let's go through each one of these groupings. So let's mute all the mute all the drums, and then or mute all the tracks. Let's just open up the drums here, and we're going to mute these parallel tracks, and we're actually going to mute the parallel drums for a second. So if we just listen to the drums themselves, okay, this is without parallel compression. So now if I turn on the parallel compression track, listen to the kick and the snare. Before, right away you hear the snare get a lot more cracked, the kick tightens up a little bit, and the drum kit just sounds a little bit more lively. Now if I were to exaggerate that and turn that up, this is what that would sound like. It's way too much. None at all. And if I bring it in subtly, okay, now I would also be bringing this fader up in the context of the whole mix playing. I'm just doing this in solo to demonstrate it so you know what to listen for, okay? So this is not the perfect level. I'd be doing this in the context of a mix. Just keep that in mind. Okay, so now let's talk about, well, what compressor did we use here for this? Okay, so what I do is I'm using, I take all the drum tracks, the kick, the snare, and the hats. You can see them down here, kick through the hats, and I'm sending them to what's called P drums, which is the parallel drum compression bus. I'm doing it pre-fader, so it has the send level is not affected by the fader on the individual channel. Okay, and as you can see, I'm not sending the overheads in the rooms. I typically don't send overheads in rooms to a parallel track because it tends to get very washy. I typically am looking just for the kick and the snare, and if there were tom tracks here, I'd have the toms possibly going there as well to get them to poke through the mix, and leave the overheads in the rooms kind of out of that parallel mix. Although you can experiment, and sometimes it'll sound better with it in there, and you have to kind of experiment. Okay, so I'm sending them down to this P drum track. And on this, we're using a compressor, the 1176 by Universal Audio. I tend to love this compressor for parallel compression on drums. Using all buttons mode which is by holding Shift and clicking to the 20, clicking the 4:1 ratio, push all the buttons in. Very fast release, very quick release, slow attack, and you're going to see how much compression we're doing here. We're doing probably 7 to 10 dB of compression. Okay. Okay, and that's the effect. Okay, so now with the drums playing, let's go to the bass and see what we got for bass. This is the bass without parallel compression. I'm going to turn it on right here. Before. Okay, so what you should hear on the bass there is that 700 to 1000 hertz range is where you can hear the fingers of the bass coming out. So it kind of gets and kind of pokes through the mix a little bit. It gives it a little bit more clarity to the bass. I'm using the Universal Audio LA2 compressor, which is a very slow compressor, and I got to got to jack up the peak reduction quite a bit just to get about 5 dB of compression, and then I just make it up with some makeup gain. Now if I mute it, before, after. Okay, so it just brings the fingers out a little bit more and it kind of pokes through the mix, which is what I kind of wanted. Okay, on guitars, I'm sending all the guitars to this parallel track, and on this particular one, I'm using, again, a Universal Audio compressor, the 1176 Anniversary Edition. This is a little bit different from what we're using on the drums, as this one has a super slow attack mode. The attack is much slower on this compressor, doing a 4:1 ratio, okay, with a even though it seems to be like a medium attack, but on this compressor it is quite slow and a fast release. And here's what we got. Let me unmute the guitar tracks. Oh, I don't know if we have any. Let me get to a section of the song where there's actually guitars playing. That would be helpful, would it not? So I'll come over to the last chorus here, where all the guitars are kind of kicked in. Okay, so here's what we have before parallel compression with just the original tracks. Okay, so without the parallel compression, you kind of lose the guitars in the mix completely. Now, these guitars are not made to really stand out. This is not like a real heavy riff rock heavy metal track where the guitars are overpowering anyway. The guitars are kind of a supporting instrument here, okay? So, and again, this mix is not done. There's a few subtleties in the mix I have to play with, but you get the idea. So it just kind of pokes it through. And again, we're doing about 7 dB of compression on this. Okay, now if we go over to the keyboards, again, let's find a section of music where the keyboards are kind of there so you can kind of hear it. Again, there's not a lot of keys here. There's a synth and an organ. There's very little happening here in way of keyboards. Okay, so let's kind of listen to what we have. so again, using the Blackface, the 1176 LN by UA, and we're using a very fast release, kind of a slow attack. Again, about 7 dB of compression. You can really hear that synth cut through the mix with the parallel compression, okay? So again, it tightens things up and makes things a little thicker. Now let's go over to the lead vocal. This is where you're going to really hear something that really does something nice. So if we come over to the lead vocal to the verse here, let's just take a quick listen to this. Okay, and we got no parallel compression right now. It's muted. Let's listen to the verse.
I could barely make it through the day without fear in my heart would send you away. I could barely make a memory that I want to keep without you near me.
It's before.
Oh, I'll try, but then I'll deny. Oh, I'll try, but then I'll deny.
Okay, so hopefully what you can hear there is you can hear the vocal with the parallel track actually makes it appear like the vocal was pulled forward in the mix right up in front of your face, which is where we want the lead vocal in a song, right? So again, what are we using here? We're using the Fairchild by Universal Audio. This is an awesome compressor. It's a tubes compressor in the hardware version. It's probably the most sought after hardware compressor ever made. And there's a reason for that, because anything you put through this compressor sounds good. It's hard to make this compressor to sound bad. And anything you put through it, no matter how hard you tend to push this compressor, it never really sounds overly compressed, okay? So we're probably doing 5 to 7 dB of compression here. Let's take a listen.
Through the day without fear in my heart would send you away.
Before.
I could barely make a memory that I want to keep without you near me.
After.
Oh, I'll try,
It just gives it a nice sweetness and a nice clarity to the vocal, in my opinion.
but then I'll deny. Oh, I'll try, but then I'll deny.
Okay, and there's our lead vocal. And now our background vocals finally. Let's take a quick listen to those. We'll unmute the regular bus. We'll mute the parallel track. We're using the same compressor, using the Fairchild, just because it sounds great. Why the heck not, right?
Maybe it's a matter of we're animals, it's natural. Maybe it's a matter of reacting to so close to touch.
Okay, doing about 10 dB of compression there. Again, it pulls those background vocals right forward in the mix, okay? So that's the parallel compression. Now, once again, if I were to mute them all, and again, the faders, I would probably tweak this in a little bit more, which I will before I submit my mix to the contest. But I just want you to kind of hear what we got going on here. So here's the overall effect. Again, they're muted, and then I'll turn them all on at the same time.
I could barely make a memory that I want to keep without you near me. Oh, I'll try, but then I'll deny. Oh, I'll try, but then I'll deny. Maybe it's a matter of we're animals, it's natural. Maybe it's a matter of reacting to so close to touch.
Okay, so hopefully that was helpful, and you can hear the difference. It's quite obvious sitting here in the control room, and that is how I use parallel compression on this particular song. I urge you to try this in your next mix, because once you get good at this and you know how to dial it in, it really does make your mix kind of go to the next level, in my opinion. So I hope this video was helpful. Again, thanks for watching, and for more tips, tricks, concepts, and training around everything home recording, be sure to always head out to homerecordingmadeeasy.com. And if you're not watching this on YouTube, head out to the YouTube channel, head out to YouTube, search for Home Recording Made Easy, and subscribe. There's probably close to 200 videos right now. Tons of great training, product demos, and everything to help you make better music in your home studio. And if you also wouldn't mind, head out to Facebook, search for Home Recording Made Easy. Follow me on Facebook, give me a like. And hang out and check out what's going on over there. I'm always posting things every couple of days, everything from little tips and concepts and things to think about in your next mix, as well as some deals that might be coming up on my training products. So it's a really good idea if you go out and follow me on Facebook. So until the next time with the next video, this has been Dave with HomeRecordingMadeEasy.com, and I will speak to you all soon. Take care.